This lesson will be all about quadrilaterals or four-sided figures. You will have two objectives. The first objective is to classify or name quadrilaterals. Your second objective is to find the measure of a missing fourth angle when given a quadrilateral that has three other angles shown. First thing you must know is a quadrilateral is a four-sided figure. There are many different types of quadrilaterals. With this lesson, you should be able to see a quadrilateral and then be able to tell its name. As I've talked about in the past, you need to know that a square is a rectangle, but a rectangle is not a square. So take a look at this slide right here. As you can see, right now we have a square that's sitting nice and pretty inside of the rectangle. That's because a square is a rectangle. However, a rectangle is not a square. Few things that you need to know about squares and rectangles. Let's first focus on your square right here. Your square is a four-sided shape. It has four 90-degree angles, and all of its sides are equal to one another. That's what makes it very distinct. A rectangle is kind of similar to a square, but it's also different too. With a rectangle, you have two opposite sides that are equal, but they may be different lengths and widths. So, why is the square a rectangle, but a rectangle is not a square? Well, a rectangle is not a square because while its sides are parallel to each other, they are different lengths. Your length right here is going to be different than your width, which is right here. They're different. So a rectangle is not a square. However, a square is considered to be a rectangle. Two more quadrilaterals that you need to know. First one is called a parallelogram. A parallelogram has two sets of parallel sides. Your first set of parallel lines are right here, and then the second set are going across this way. With a parallelogram, it's a little bit like a rectangle in which you have two sides that are longer than the others. If you were to take a look at a rhombus also has two sets of parallel sides, but one thing that makes a rhombus different than a parallelogram is that all of its sides are equal to each other. With a parallelogram, that isn't always the case. A trapezoid. A trapezoid has only one set of parallel lines. So in this case, you can see that this line is going to be parallel to this line up top. The two sides at the sides of this trapezoid are going to eventually be intersecting. They are not parallel. That's why we call it a trapezoid. The best way that I have learned how to remember a trapezoid is that if you were to keep extending these intersecting lines, it would be essentially making a trap. And this would be where your trap is, right here. That's how I like to remember a trapezoid, but you can always remember it whichever way is easiest for you. The second objective of this lesson was to find the measure of a missing fourth angle. There's a little bit of theory that you need to know first. The first thing you need to know is a quadrilateral has four 90-degree angles. And if you were to take 90 plus 90 plus 90 plus 90 and add those all together, you would see that altogether a quadrilateral is made up of 360 degrees. That's really important. Remember in our previous lesson that if you were to cut that rectangle in half, a triangle has 180 degrees. Well, this time we're still focusing on just the quadrilateral, so be sure that all your angles are equaling up to 360 degrees. So the first thing that we're going to learn how to do is find out that angle of the missing fourth number. So I'm going to go ahead and write some degrees of angles that we do know in this quadrilateral that I am going to be making up right now. We'll say that one of the angles is 60 degrees. Another one is 75 degrees. And our third angle is going to be 80 degrees. And we don't know the degree of the fourth angle in this quadrilateral. Well, I know when we add all of these numbers together, it should equal 360 degrees. So the easiest way that I know how to do this is to first add up the angles that you do know. So I'm going to be adding up 60 plus 75 plus 80. And I'm going to do this on my paper. 0 plus 5 plus 0 is 5. I know that 8 plus 7 is 15 plus 6 is 21. So right now, just adding up these angles, I have 215 degrees that are already accounted for. Now I know whatever number ends up in this missing fourth angle has to make up the difference. So I'm going to take this 360 degrees and subtract 215 from it to figure out what is going to go in this box right here. And I need to make sure that I subtract well. And for my answer, I got 145. So up in this box up above, where my question mark is, I can go ahead and put 145 degrees. If I wanted to check my work, I could go ahead and add 60 plus 75 plus 80 plus 145, and if I got the correct answer, I should be receiving 360 degrees. Okay, I want you to try doing this problem by yourself. Feel free to pause if you need extra time. We're going to say that this angle has 90 degrees, 105 degrees, and 106 degrees. And I'm trying to figure out that missing side. Feel free to pause. Okay, well, as you know, when I add up these answers, I want it to equal 360 degrees. So I'm going to take what I already know and I'm going to add those together. So I'm going to take 90 plus 105 plus 106. I'm going to add those together. And you'll see that my answer is 301. Next thing I'm going to do is try to figure out the difference between this 360 degrees and 301 so I can find the difference to put in this missing fourth angle spot. So I'm going to take 360 degrees, subtract 301, make sure that I borrow correctly, and the answer that I got was 59 degrees, which I'm going to put right here in the spot for my answer. Now, to know if I got my answer correct, I could go back and add 90 plus 105 plus 106 plus 59, and my answer should be 360 degrees. One more problem. For this one, I'm going to say that one of my angles is 75 degrees. 44 degrees, 100 degrees, and then I'm going to have my missing fourth angle. Go ahead and pause. Well, like I said before, when we add these together, it should equal 360 degrees. First thing I'm going to do is add up the numbers that I know. I'm going to add 75 plus 44 plus 100. And I'm going to make sure that I add these numbers together correctly. And I got for my answer 219. I need to find the difference between 219 and 360, so I'm going to take 360 degrees, subtract 219, and try to make sure I do this math as carefully as I can. The answer I received was 141 degrees. I'm going to put that spot right here so that my missing fourth angle is going to be 141 degrees. And of course, if I wanted to go back and check my answer, I could add all four angles and double check to make sure that it equals 360 degrees. After you are done with this problem, please circle the smiley face that best shows how well you understand. Feel free to write a question if you have any type of question that you would like to ask me about today's lesson. Thanks!